first witness in the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial is expected to take the stand in the Pretoria Magistrate's Court today. 5 men stand accused of killing the Bafana Bafana captain back in 2014 in Vosloorus. Last week, the state said it could prove that a spent cartridge found at the crime scene matched the firearm police retrieved from one of those suspects. Our reporter Tshegohaco Moagi joins us in studio for the latest. Tshegohaco, thanks for coming in. We're saying that we think a police officer will be this first witness, but we actually don't know.
We really don't know who exactly the first witness would be. We did hear the state, of course, mention that today will be the actual start of the trial where this witness will be called through. The state, Michelle, is expected to call about 15 to 20 witnesses in this trial. Of course, this would include ballistic experts, forensic experts, and we understand as well the pathologist who actually carried out the post-mortem on Senzo Meyiwa's body on that year of 2014. So, I mean, it's a long list of people that will be called out, and it's expected to sit. The trial is expected to sit until the 29th of April, which is Friday. But with this number of witnesses, I doubt that will actually happen.
Yeah, no, unlikely. We still don't know the specifics insofar as the witness list is concerned. But certainly, for people who are tracking the story, they will hope that the people who were in the house at the time of Senzo Meyiwa's murder will also be taking the stand. Absolutely.
The state also mentioning that they will be calling some of those people that were in the house in 2014 when Senzo was killed. And, I mean, just one would like to see who those people would actually be. Will Kelly Khumalo be there? We know that there's now an assault charge against these 5 men as well for allegedly assaulting Kelly Khumalo on that night as well. There's also a charge that has also been laid by Zandile, Kelly's sister. So there's a lot of other things that have unraveled when it comes to this particular trial. So it would be interesting to see which person that was in that house. I mean, there were, if I'm not mistaken, 7 people at the house, including Senzo, on that night. And it would be interesting to see which of the 6 that are still alive would actually be called in to take the stand and give their account of what actually took place.
One would imagine, and of course the story is in the top of mind for many people who would have seen that Netflix docuseries around the events that transpired on the night of the murder, the investigations that took place after the fact. But one would wonder whether those 4 people who were in the house, or those 7, but the 4 who were in the room with Senzo Meyiwa, is it as simple as showing them these 5 suspects and asking them whether these are the men that robbed you?
I don't think so, Michelle. I mean, also, it's years later. It's 8 years later. So one's memory does deteriorate at a certain point. People won't necessarily remember which person was actually in the house at the time. Possibly they might, but you never know what a person can remember 8 years later. That's the one concern I think that the state will definitely have. And that's the one thing
that plays against the state, isn't it?
Absolutely.
That it is so much time has passed.
Absolutely. There's so much time that has passed. There's just so much that has now happened. And I mean, this docuseries as well, coming in at a time when the trial is supposed to start, where things can easily be used from that docuseries as people testify. They can work around that particular docuseries to say this is what they understand to have happened. It's 8 years later, and it would be interesting to see how many of those people that will be called in, that were in the house at the time, would actually possibly change their statement from what they have said before. But, I mean, if you watch that particular docuseries, there's a point where Longwe Twala contradicts himself, so to speak. He says that he ran out and he did not have his phone with him because the 5 men allegedly demanded those cell phones. And then there's another interview that he did, and he says he ran out and the phone was in his back pocket. His phone was in his back pocket. So it's things like that that the state will have to also dig into to find out what exactly happened on that night. Which of the 5 suspects did you see that actually entered the house? But with this first witness, it will also be interesting to see that if it is a police officer, what was his role on the night when Senzo Meyiwa was killed?
For people who are following the case closely, will we be able to see the case in real time? Will it be broadcast?
It definitely will be broadcast. Newzroom Afrika should be broadcasting it as well. So yeah, it's expected to start at 10. And we'll see what happens from there at the Pretoria High Court.
I imagine people will be glued to their screens, particularly on 405. Tshegohaco, thanks for coming into studio.